Hi, I'm Jason Rodriguez with Be Grateful Farm right outside of beautiful Steamboat Springs, Colorado. We got the ski resort to that direction and the farm to this direction, so we're perfectly situated to have lots of fun all winter and grow beautiful food all summer long. So we're just going to give you a little farm tour so you can have a look around on what we've been doing here the past few years. And if you start here where we're at right now, right kind of outside of our driveway, this is something Heather has been super excited about and we're super excited about here on the farm is our pollinator garden. So as you probably know, if you're watching this video and you're into farms and growing food, pollinators are super important to our food system, and there's been a decline in pollinators over the years. So something that's really important to us here is restoring pollinator habitat. So what we do is from all of our Be Grateful Farm honey caramel sales, we donate 10% of all of our profits to restoring pollinator habitat. And the first ones we decided to do were right here on the farm. So actually, if you look up on that hillside, it's been kind of dry the last couple months, but we planted 5 acres of pollinator seeds up there. So it's where all these pollinator flowers are going to grow. And then the second thing that we did up here is we have our pollinator garden. Now, if you look around, it's pretty small right now because it was actually just planted 2 weeks ago. And we had the Rocky Mountain Youth Corp come. It was a group of 12 kids work with my wife, and they came and we got all of these pollinator species of plants that are going to attract butterflies and honeybees and bumblebees and birds and just everything that's going to create this ecosystem here where the pollinators can really thrive. So you see we have kind of pathways done out and all of our pollinator plants, and the way this stuff grows here, you know, it kind of takes a little while to get established because of the climate here up in the mountains. But by next year, this is just going to be huge with flowers, and it's just going to be really beautiful in here. So after the pollinator area, we can come around this direction. This is Santos. We rescued him about a year ago, and he just likes following me around the farm all day. He thinks I'm his little sheep, so he likes to herd me and nip at my heels, but that's okay because he's pretty cool. And this is our heated greenhouse. This is our prop house and also where we're able to grow our first tomatoes of the year. So we start tomatoes in our house because we're up here in at 7,200 feet. And we have to start them in February, but it's still below zero here in Steamboat. So for the first 2 months, all the tomatoes are started like literally in our living room, and we have lights going on in there. And then around, usually around April, we'll bring them into this tunnel. We've got a really strong heater here, and we've got full automation in here. And I'll talk a little bit more about what we're gonna be doing out in the new 16-foot wide Farmer's Friend tunnels with automation too. But automation is critical for here in Steamboat because the weather changes so quickly. I mean, from 1 minute to the next, it can be, 60, 70 degrees out, and then a storm will roll in and it'll be 40 degrees and winds whipping. And then like a half hour later, it's 70 degrees and the sun is shining again. So if you don't have automation on your tunnels here, you could lose a whole crop of tomatoes in like within a few hours by the greenhouse just getting like to 120 degrees. So everything is temperature controlled. The sides roll up and down on their own based on temperature control. And yeah, so you'll see the tomatoes. We got the tomatoes going along the sides. So this is so we can have our early crop of tomatoes, because in our unheated tunnels, those tomatoes don't generally, in this climate, they're not ready until the middle or end of August, and people really want tomatoes to get tomatoes going earlier. So we got all our prop tables here. So this is where we stage all of our transplants before they go out to the field. Most of our transplanting is done with a paper pot planter, which has really made it so fast on the farm. I mean, I can't even imagine how we could grow as much food as we grow here on the farm if we were doing all just manual hand transplants. So the paper pot planter was definitely one of the things that transformed our farm and made us who we are today as well. This is our germination chamber. This is a phytotronics germination chamber. here in Steamboat, it's super dry and it's really hard to get good germination. So this unit keeps it the perfect humidity and the perfect heat to where we get like literally almost 100% germination, like 99% germination when it comes out of here, which is like unheard of in Steamboat area. So it goes in there first, we seed everything in this area, goes to germination chamber, goes to the prop tables. Once it's big enough, we take it right outside the greenhouse and harden it. And you really got to harden it here in this climate as well, because it's going from this nice cozy greenhouse out to those fields where it's kind of pretty rough. So we harden it for a couple days under agribon right outside there, and then we start moving it out to the field. The back of the greenhouse is the back of the heated greenhouse. Here is where we do all of our microgreens. So you can see we have all of these racks, and right now we're growing sunflower microgreens, but all the racks generally have different stages of microgreens. So these are the ones that we'll be harvesting this week and next week. And then we have other ones, if you can see under here, they're started. And these are I think these are actually arugula microgreens. This is something we're experimenting with this week, and that's gonna be really cool because our members love our arugula, and arugula microgreens sound like so much fun. Last year, the watering was really tough, and we only had 170 member CSA, and we were selling some microgreens at the farmers markets. But I mean, to water each one of these trays, and it just took forever, and especially with how hot it can get in here, just with the sun coming in from the sunrise, we would be losing trays like crazy. So we found these big trays, the Botanicare Plant Energy Products trays. They're a 2x4 rack tray with a 4-inch drain on it, and you can actually place 4 of the smaller microgreen trays inside of these larger trays, and that way you can just water right into here, and there's a reservoir, and you can keep it really nicely evenly watered all day long, so we're not getting as much loss on our crops there. All right, I think that's about it for this greenhouse here. Oh well, the greens harvester, this guy, this is, as you guys probably know if you're a subscriber to Farmer's Friend, that's our life-changing tool on the farm. I mean, probably 50% of what we grow on the farm is baby greens, and there's absolutely no way we could have done it without this. There's no way our farm would be where it is without this product. People love our baby arugula, our baby spring mix, even our spinach, like our large spinach we're cutting with this thing now, and it's amazing. It's working perfectly. We're getting nice clean cuts, and we're getting a nice second yield on it with this, so it's working really well for that. And even our microgreens we're cutting with that. Heather has it set up on the back table. She just slides the microgreens right through it, gets a nice cut on them, and it speeds everything up really fast for us. So as you make your way out of the heated greenhouse, we come into this is our actually newest section of the farm. In March, when COVID started happening, we were like, we want to grow a lot more food for the community because we saw what was happening, and we're like, we're just going to make this happen. You know, like, we think growing local food is probably the most important thing that we could be doing for our planet right now. So we're like, okay, let's just do this. Let's just make the investment. We look for help for the community. We got we actually got a loan from just a local person here in the community that wanted to help grow more local food, and we invested some of our own earnings from this year, and we went ahead and bought all these beautiful Farmer's Friend tunnels. These are the brand new 16-foot tunnels. We were actually the first people that got it. It was kind of a funny story, but we ordered the 14-foot, and Heather's like, we know something new is coming, and we didn't know what it was, but she had a feeling it was a new tunnel. So we're like, I kept calling and asking, what's the new thing? What's the new thing? And it was a 16-foot tunnel, and I talked to Nick at customer service, and he was kind enough to switch it over to the 16-foot tunnels. So the reason I really wanted the 16-foot wasn't necessarily like for more space, because with the 14-footers we could have just like fit more tunnels in, but the thicker steel was critical. We have upwards 60-70 mile per hour winds here coming out of this canyon, and super heavy snow load. We get about 200 inches of snow here a year. So I'm always looking for the heaviest duty stuff I can. So if you're in a northern climate, like, you want to go with the really heavy duty frames on the 16-inch tunnels. The other thing we have on these tunnels, just before we go inside, on the outside, these are vents that have a wax in them that melts at 72 degrees, and they open up automatically. So we didn't have to run any electricity to these tunnels to put these vents on. They wiggle wire right into the plastic. They're super easy to install, but it just helps buy us a little time with the weather changes of getting a little bit more airflow in before we're able to manually open and close the tunnels. The other thing we're going to be doing with these tunnels is like the Farm Tech greenhouse, how it's all manual automation with a thermostat. We already actually bought all the materials to start on this one. We're going to do automation on these, where there's going to be a thermostat installed. We're going to have the sides just roll up the same way that the Farm Tech tunnels do. And so the plastic is gonna, rather than coming all the way down and with the ropes, we're gonna run U-channel and wiggle wire straight across the side, and then have a bar go across the bottom, and it's just gonna roll up and roll down based on the thermostat that's inside the tunnel. And honestly, like, we can't do it without that. There's no way for us to get in and out fast enough with the change of the weather here, with how quickly it changes and how unpredictable it is, without having full automation on those tunnels. So we've been doing it ourselves all summer, but as soon as the fall hits and things slow down a little bit, we're gonna jump into putting the automation on all the tunnels. So we can walk in, see what's going on in these tunnels here. So we decided to start these tunnels with tomatoes and cucumbers. So these got in a little bit late, so they're taking a little bit longer, obviously, than the ones in the heated greenhouse, but as you can see, they're all flowering. We're gonna have a really nice harvest. Brittany's in here. She's one of our awesome farmers here, pruning them away so that they grow really nice. And then on the outsides, we have the cucumbers. And again, you know, the stuff in these tunnels, since it's outdoor, it's unheated, it won't grow as fast, but we can get our earlier crop from the heated greenhouse, and then we can get a later crop out here from the unheated tunnels. Here's another one, same concept. These tomatoes went in a little bit earlier, so they're a little bit taller, and you can see we have some more fruit coming on them. These black tomatoes you see are really cool. We work with a local seed company that grows high elevation seeds, and it's really important to start doing that, because it just makes the food grows easier if it's acclimated to this altitude and climate. So all those black tomatoes we call them the hippie seeds, because they're all going to come in like different tie-dye colors and stuff. But they're all these seeds were grown at high altitude and cold climates. So in between the tunnels, we had to keep the tunnels pretty wide because we need snow removal in the winter so that it doesn't bury the tunnels in. So I had to keep them wide enough to get a tractor through here so we could blow the snow out of here. But as to not waste the space, we just went ahead and filled it in with kale, and the kale's doing pretty well here in between the tunnels. It's just an extra crop for our members. And then inside these two tunnels, these are gonna be permanent. So these are permanent raspberry tunnels. So we just started them, and you can see they're pretty small still, but they're growing really well. And a problem you can have up here up in the mountains with raspberries is that if you could grow them outside of a tunnel, no problem, but in the winter, if the snow gets really heavy, it'll just crush them, and then you're basically starting again every single year. So we got watermelons. We just ran out of raspberries. We'll fill this with more raspberries next year, but that whole left side is all watermelons, and then these are all raspberries. And if you come into the first tunnel over here, you can see these raspberries are a little further along, and they need to be trellised. They're starting to fall over a little bit, but they're doing well. They have some fruit on them. And this is where Tobias likes to come out here and get his dessert every night. Just come out here and pick some raspberries and eat them. But our hope is to have enough raspberries for our members and to provide for our community as well. We got the pond over here and the windmill. Beautiful. This is where the sunrise comes up every morning. So we got a great water supply for our farm. And then we'll take you in this direction. The farm's mostly powered on yerba mate. That's what's in here, by the way. I don't know if I could get through the day without it, but it's nice though, no crash. Keeps me going all day. Okay, so this is the main part of our high rotation crops on our farm. And one thing you'll notice right away is it is completely covered in agribon. And we have tried to grow, okay, so on a whim, Heather heard right before we started the farm that there was another farm she was following that used agribon. And we started growing with agribon, and everything was growing really, really well. We just put the agribon on top of it. Oh, it sounds like a good thing to do. We tried growing without agribon, nothing would grow. So here's the deal. Here in Steamboat, with the high winds coming through, being at 7,000 feet, the sun is beaten down. If it's 70 degrees here in Steamboat, it feels like 90 degrees anywhere else in the country because the sun is so strong. The second I take that agribon off, within 1 to 2 hours, any transplants will shrivel up and die. So what the agribon does is it creates its own microclimate and its own level of basically of humidity inside of there that keeps everything well at a really good moisture level. So it keeps the sun off the crop, sun from beating down too hard on the crops. It keeps the wind from sucking all the moisture out. Also keeps the pests out. We have a horrible grasshopper problem the last couple of years. There is like millions of grasshoppers all around the farm. We use Nolo. I think it worked a little bit, but still there's just grasshoppers everywhere. And anything that's covered with the agribon is like completely grasshopper hole free. Anything that doesn't have agribon on it is like chewed up, except stuff that we uncover on purpose because we know the grasshoppers don't like. So once certain things get to a certain size, we will uncover them, like spinach, because if you keep it covered, it'll bolt because it's a winter crop. But we have actually figured out a way to grow spinach in the summertime here by germinating it in a cold room, moving it out to the field under agribon until it's a few inches, and then uncovering it, letting it grow the rest of the way without the agribon on top of it. But yeah, lots of agribon, all overhead irrigation. We tried drip the first year, and with critters biting holes in it and all the waste at the end of the year with all that plastic, you know, getting thrown in the garbage, it was such a waste. We went to overhead. We started getting better yield on our crops, less waste, less problems. So we pretty much everything we can run on overhead, we do now. The garlic's on drip, the strawberries are on drip, tomatoes and cucumbers, obviously anything that has to be on drip is on drip, but everything else is on overhead irrigation. So we have strawberries over there, that always stays strawberries, and this is kind of where we run our garlic. And then under any of these rows, like you can see some char that didn't get covered poking out the end, but I don't know if you can get under there, but this will just be a whole bed of rainbow chard under there. And then you can see some probably transplants. There's some radish transplants going in. This is our 7 baby kale blend. Super happy under the agribon. So it's a staple on our farm. And the key with this stuff, you know, to be as sustainable as possible is just to figure out systems that it's not tearing in the wind like crazy. And if Heather and I talked about if we can add one incredible thing to the farming community that we think we kind of came up with. When we started with the agribon, everyone was recommending sandbags. Sandbags did not work. It was blowing right off the sandbags every windstorm. Then it was like staples. Okay, we made these big staples the second year. It didn't work. Tearing out. We were still having to throw away agribon. Then we figured out, okay, well, with the tarps, with the silage tarps that we use every year, I started figuring out, let's put some rebar on top of it and then put bricks on the rebar. And that was holding the silage tarps down. And I was thinking, well, if the agribon is a lot lighter than the silage tarps, let's try that too. So what we did now is all of the agribon has rebar, just like a 3/8 gauge, just a super lightweight 20 feet rebar all the way around the perimeters. And on the ends, we put these bricks or sandbags. And we can have 60-mile-per-hour windstorms roll through here and all the agribon stays down. And that is amazing. And same thing with the silage tarps. We used to battle the silage tarps just putting sandbags on them. We'd be out here every windstorm, all the silage tarps would blow out. We'd be out here for like 4 hours trying to fix them all. Now we just put rebar all around the edges. We put bricks in the rebar and they'll stay down with any kind of windstorm now. So huge, huge win on that. Coming along this direction on the farm. These are our first edition Farmer's Friend tunnels. I think this was the year you guys launched the tunnel. We went ahead and bought them right away. We had just put one up for the first year that was over here, and we had tomatoes and cucumbers in it. It did a really nice job. I'm pretty excited to get some end walls on here soon, so hopefully you guys can come up with a solution for that for us soon. But if not, we'll figure something out. These end walls on these tunnels, I actually had a carpenter friend of ours build. He built wooden frames, and then we did the U-channel and the wiggle wire. But we need something that we can kind of get on and off a little easier on these ones, because these are 3-season tunnels and these are going to be 4-season tunnels. These end walls are permanent. So overhead irrigation here for our early crops, and then we run drip. These are eggplant now that are in there. We're going to run drip on all of those. Cucumbers in here, we just pulled out a bed of carrots. Okay, so as you look in this direction, this is actually the area we expanded last year. This plot that you first saw with the 2 round tunnels and the kale and everything we showed you, that was our first third of an acre. Then the second year we went here to fill it out to a full acre, and this is where we had some really transformational activity, because this first one this year we were battling weeds like crazy. At that point we decided to put silage tarps on this entire thing, and then the weed pressure here has been like little to none. I mean, we get out here and do cultivation a little bit, but those silage tarps were huge, and you can see them piled up all over the place. You know, we pull them off, and then as soon as the bed's clear, we'll put the tarp back on there to keep the weed pressure down. Yeah, we have to have deer fence all around the perimeter of the property because we have a ton of herds of deer and elk that come through here, so we got to keep them out. And yeah, I think that's about it. Thanks for going on a farm tour with us today. I hope this inspires you to grow food of your own and to experiment with things that are going to work for you in your particular climate and territory where you're growing your food. If you want to learn more about us or follow us you know, here on the farm or farm activity, you can go to our website, begratefulfarm.com. So it's B-E-E like a honeybee, begratefulfarm.com, or follow us on Instagram. Heather's always posting some beautiful stories and activity of everything that's going on our farm. And yeah, hope you have a wonderful time this summer farming.